Mike and Brooke revisit the topic of micro-targeting investment properties, a discussion first explored pre-COVID. They dive into the key indicators that determine whether a neighborhood is on the rise, in decline, or holding steady. From analyzing vacancy rates to spotting investment opportunities near high-demand areas, they break down the signals that real estate investors should pay attention to. Plus, they share insights on vetting tenants and assessing the long-term potential of a rental property. All this and more on the Cleveland Real Estate Investor Podcast.
Okay, hi everybody. This is Mike Riley with Brooke Riley for the Cleveland Real Estate Investor. I've just returned from 5 glorious days in Delray Beach. As Brooke and Amari can tell, I've got a nice deep tan. I'm rested, relaxed, and I'm looking at gray and ice and cold ice rain, right?
Welcome back.
Welcome back. So, but anyways, we're going to revisit a podcast we did a couple years ago, which was about micro-targeting. And this is where you've got to be very careful if you're going to invest in Cleveland. Be very careful in terms of the dealing with a realtor in terms of buying your investment property. Because the realtor, again, they're good people. We do a lot of work with realtors, but at the end of the day, they want to sell you a house. They are not necessarily selling you an investment. Your thoughts, Brooke, because you've been working with some of our realtors?
Yeah, I mean, I think a realtor's not gonna, I think they do their best in trying to find a home that, you like and want to buy, but I think more so for investment properties, they're not really geared towards that, or maybe there's only a select few. I mean, there has to be a select few of realtors who only specialize in that type of thing. But the majority of them are, working with families, trying to find a house that fits their budget, school districts, safety, that kind of stuff.
Right. So we're going to talk about some of the tips that you need to keep in mind when you're buying a property. And of course, Riley Properties, spelled R-E-I-L-L-Y. You see it on your podcast app. But Riley Properties, we're here. We offer really good, reasonable fees as consultants when you're buying a property. We can direct you into the street in that neighborhood you're looking at. We can do the inspections with our other main company, Riley Painting and Contracting, 50 years in the business. So we know what to look for in terms of investment. So let's get the first rule. Be very aware of the type of retail that surrounds the neighborhood that you are looking at. For example, is there a lot of dollar stores there? Is there a lot of check cashing stores there? There is a reason why those types of stores migrate to those types of neighborhoods. Your thoughts, Brooke?
I don't think I need to give my thoughts on that. I think what you said's pretty straightforward. I would definitely agree. On the more positive end, there are definitely certain storefronts that you want to look for that, to me, indicate a thriving or up-and-coming neighborhood. I think like local coffee shops is big, local restaurants.
Yeah.
And if you're close to any of the more kind of outdoor mall type venues, like Pinecrest, Legacy to an extent. But, I think of neighborhoods like Cedar Fairmount in Cleveland. You got Zug, you got Vero, you've got Starbucks, you have Barrio, all kind of local restaurants.
Fairmount Wine Bar, you got Aladdin's.
So, and yeah, I think there are some nice neighborhoods that do have like a dollar store nearby, but if you're in a neighborhood where on every corner there's one, and then on every other corner there's a check cashing place, probably, that wouldn't be at the top of my list as a neighborhood to invest in. The only thing I would say is probably like the biggest neighborhood in Cleveland that's seen a massive spike in real estate prices as like Ohio City and Tremont. Now, those neighborhoods, I would guess 20 years ago were pretty unsafe and run down, but whoever revitalized those neighborhoods had a plan, and that plan worked out. And I always say, like, if I could go back in time 20 years ago with, you know, the money that we have now, if we invested in Ohio City and Tremont, I mean, it would be
tripled your money. Yeah, easily.
so.
Yeah, I think, my experience going to New York every year, I remember what Brooklyn was like in the 80s. There was only few areas in Brooklyn that you could go to. You know, some of them were kind of hollowed out. And then as New York exploded, in the late 80s, New York got cleaned up by Giuliani, then by Bloomberg, continued the mojo. All of a sudden, Times Square's cleaned up. What you saw was property values in the city in Manhattan just exploded. So where do we go now? And what people started edging, up, like take Central Park West on the west side. We have friends, Brooke remembers the Sudakoffs. Nate Sudakoff bought his apartment, which is Central Park West, West 90th. Well, he was on the edge, believe it or not, of a kind of a shady neighborhood. And Harlem was, you were going to buy an apartment in Harlem 30 years ago, but now Harlem's totally cool. It's become, it's a major hipster area and everything connected. Harlem, which is uptown, but Central Park West, all the way, over the hundreds is just booming. But the micro-targeting in neighborhoods happens on the edges. It doesn't just, it's like, all of a sudden you get a little green patch and then you get some more water coming in and pretty soon you wake up 5 years later and that whole area has been developed. I think what you need to look for, again, the dollar stores, the check cashing, the grocery stores, which are, they're not Whole Foods, they're not fresh foods, they're, it's a food desert. If it's a food desert, that is not a good sign for a neighborhood. If, on the other hand, you've got bread stores, cafes, locally owned restaurants popping up, that is a very good sign. Then there are areas that are somewhere in between that are about to emerge. Now, a couple years ago, we were talking about Meadowbrook and Kensington area. You got Phoenix Coffee. 10 years ago, 5 years ago, that was kind of run down, dilapidated. A lot of double houses were just falling apart. A lot of vacant houses. And now it's a major hipster area. So number one is, what is the type of retail there? So those should be red flags. You don't even want to invest in that. Your realtor is showing you a house. You're mesmerized by the price. Oh my God, I can get this 4-bedroom for $50,000. You better look on Google Maps what is surrounding that house. The second thing to keep in mind is, what are the number of dilapidated vacant houses on the street you're buying? And you can easily see this on Google Maps. You go to Google Maps, your realtor is saying, hey, 1234 Elm Street in this zip code. You go to the house and you start just, using Google Street View. You're looking around, you're looking up and down the street. Oh my God, you've got, a couple of dilapidated houses with 6 cars in the parking lot, parking on the lawn. Trust me, if you're looking to buy that as a rental, good luck getting a good, high paying tenant moving in that area. Thoughts, Brooke?
Yeah, it reminds me, I have a friend in California, and he and his wife were looking to buy a house. And it was near a university, and it was actually like in the university neighborhood. And it was kind of in the neighborhood of where like a lot of these frat and sorority houses were. And he told me the realtor was adamant that like, nope, there's no loud parties. There's no, they do a good job of keeping the noise down. He checked Google Maps. The house looked great. And his wife had the brilliant idea of saying, we're going to drive there Saturday night and just see how loud it gets. And thank God she did that, because these guys were throwing this rager on the front yard with like a giant bonfire and blasting, ASAP Rocky at like midnight. And so
Just another average night, right?
I mean, like, I love that music, but like, if I got a young baby, the last thing I want to hear is that at, late at night. So I would definitely say, and this kind of goes back to, I think, a rule I have: if you're an out-of-state investor, I hope that if you're investing in Cleveland, that you've actually been here. Don't take the advice of a realtor. I mean, unless it is a very specific reason why you can't come, your job, have a friend, someone who you trust 100%, and literally drive to the neighborhood and just see what it's like in person. Because with Google Maps too, there's no to say how dated those photos can be.
That's true, but you can see the date on it. They have.
I just think that there's something to like feeling the vibe in person. Just kind of seeing what it's like, because it's a pretty huge investment that you're making. So I would spend that extra couple $100, take a flight here, and
oh, you know what? I got a better way to spend your money. Give it to us. Right?
Or that, yeah.
Give it to us. Trust me, $75 an hour. That's what we charge. First 2 hours. First hour is $150 as we get a sense of what you're looking for. After that, it's $75 an hour. Trust me, one of our crack team members, like Brooke or myself or other people, can literally FaceTime you on that Saturday night, right? Hey, let's stop here. We got to pay some bills. 30 seconds. And we'll be back. If you've been listening to this podcast, then you understand, or should understand, the pitfalls of investing in Cleveland real estate. Say you're looking for an investment property to rent, and these are the things that could happen, and often do. You overpay for a house, and it's in the ghetto. Then you find that it's a money pit with endless surprise repairs. Your hapless property manager, who may be the brother-in-law of the realtor, gets a tenant who after 3 months stops paying the rent. Then the toilet explodes, and you have nobody to repair it because, guess what? The property manager is not answering the phone. Yep, that's the ugly side of the Cleveland real estate market. But we have a solution. Buy one of our properties. It's been inspected. It's been vetted. It's in a rock-solid part of town. It comes with a Gold Star tenant paying top dollar rent, and we manage it. Call us at 216-371-8160 if you're interested. Here we are. Let's take a look at this neighborhood. What's the sound volume? Gunshots? Sirens going? Really? Is this, everybody hanging out? Got some sketchy characters. Is there a kind of, what do they call those Arab American little 9/11s popping up? No, I mean, where, these little stores where you can get beer or Mad Dog or, cigarettes or vape. Bodega. Yeah. Bodega. There we go, my brother. So, yeah. How many bodegas are there? I mean, that's usually right. You don't need to go a sound check. If there's a bodega there. That's not going to happen. So, all right. So we talked about, the vacant houses, the noise level, the bodegas. That's number 2. Let's get into number 3, which is you want to deal with a tenant who's leaning professional, obviously the medical student, the resident, somebody here for 6 months, 8 months, maybe a Cleveland Guardians player, of which we've had a number of them. They want something nice and quiet. They're willing to pay top dollar for that 6-8 month booking. And what is the pull? There's got to be something close to that neighborhood, like the Cleveland Orchestra, the Cleveland Museum of Art, Guardians, but it's in a safe neighborhood. And there's some underdeveloped neighborhoods in Cleveland which I think would pass the mustard there. And that's what you want to look for. Thoughts, Brooke?
Yeah, I mean, it depends, right? If you're an investor, which I would guess the vast majority of the people listening to this are investors, you're right. You want to be close to some of those kind of not landmark, but those key kind of sites in Cleveland, the hospital network, UH, the clinic, maybe it's downtown, maybe you need to be close to the highway, to get around town. So, focus on east side, west side. I mean, if you want to go like way out on the east side, that's for more of, I would guess, like, some lavish Airbnb to, a football player or a basketball guy who doesn't want to be, close to a lot of people. But yeah, I think it's important to be close to those, those key kind of sites. And for Cleveland, the great thing about it is, I mean, you're literally 20 minutes away wherever you are from like anything.
Including the airport.
You're 20 minutes, from the airport. You're 20 minutes from downtown. You're 20 minutes to Ohio City.
And we're not talking about freeways either. We're talking about just main roads. Indianapolis is kind of laid out that way, where it's amazing.
I would say, though, too, because you were kind of touching on this, finding the right tenant, some doctor or med student. I'm at the point now where just show me your credit check.
Yeah.
The two most important things, in my opinion, are credit check and numbers of previous landlords. And previous landlords is probably number one, because you're getting a sense of what they were. A credit check's not going to tell you that guy was a total asshole. I mean, he would complain every week, new email, fix this is broken. You talk to that previous landlord and they say, yeah, they were great, or they could be like, I remember this is a while back, when we had our long-term rentals, we had this guy who was interested in renting a home that we had, and he just seemed like just rock solid, this young guy. He was a resident at the clinic, and he put down his previous landlord, and I called him, and this guy I remember he started laughing. And this was when I was 24, and I was like, what?
10 years ago?
Did I say something funny?
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm so glad that guy's gone. And I was just like, that's, so it's like you're getting that real hand info and intel from a previous landlord, I think, is the most important thing when you're trying to find a tenant. And don't get desperate to an extent, because then it's just going to cost you more in the end.
Exactly. I know we're kind of straying off the micro-targeting but there is an element of understanding what is the person you want to rent to. And that goes into where you're going to buy. If you got a house that's in a safe neighborhood, not a lot of vacancies, it's quiet, but it's close to University Circle, where the hospitals are, where the art museum is. You're going to have somebody maybe working at the art museum, going to CIM, patients for the clinic, big time, traveling nurses. They want safe, they want quiet, and they want to be close to University Circle. And that's a 15-minute radius.
Well, that's the great thing, too, about Cleveland Heights.
Yeah.
Is because it attracts a larger net, in my opinion, of, med students, families. Whereas, I would say more like Shaker Heights, that's more of like, I got a couple kids, I need something that's in the Shaker School District. I don't think like students who go to Case or Cleveland State, they're not going to want to rent in Shaker. They want to be closer to Cleveland Heights because, two, one, it's closer to where they need to be, and two, it's closer to like the nightlife scene.
Right.
There's not a lot of bars in Shaker Heights.
Well, they do got Van Aken. I mean, but it's a different type of vibe, in Shaker Heights. I mean, you have that whole Van Aken area, and and again, this is our last point we want to make, and that is, what is the potential for retail? Now in Shaker, they hit a grand slam with that Van Aken development, and then I invite everybody, just go on your Google Maps to the corner of Chagrin Boulevard and Warrensville Center Road. Also, Van Aken Boulevard kind of bisects that. And you'll see the whole Van Aken development, which happened 5 years ago. They've got, I don't know, 5 or 6 outstanding restaurants. They've got shops. You know, that area is booming now. Mm-hmm. And it's on the edge of Warrensville Heights, which, by the way, could be a potential micro target, because we've been focusing on sections of Cleveland Heights, sections of University Heights. But here you've got all these little 3-bedroom bungalows that are off of Warrensville Center in the Warrensville Heights area. There's a pocket there between Harvard Road and Chagrin Boulevard. And you'll see all these streets there. And those could be great Airbnb, midterm rental places, because they're close to Beechwood. They're close to Shaker. But they're not in Shaker, so you don't have the Shaker taxes. Again, you've got to match up what is your investment plan, how much you're looking to make, and you got to zero in as to what is the neighborhood that you're going to be buying into, which has a 5-year horizon where the prop values are going to go up. So where the retail is, the new retail coming in like Van Aken, I mean, just look at Beechwood. You know, here's another area that I was just in. Now, this is way out of Cleveland. This is about 20 miles away. Hudson, the Hudson Stowe area, Broadview Heights, you know, more south of Cleveland. Hudson, Hudson is just, Hudson High School 30 years ago, they had probably student population of 4 years? I don't know, 1,000? Now it's like 10,000. It's just unbelievable how that whole that area has just exploded. So, but again, a realtor is not going to give you that really wide view of everything. You know, what is the prospects? They're just looking for a house, and they're geared more towards first-time home buyers and maybe corporate relos or something like that. They are not geared to doing an investment. Final thoughts, Brooke?
No, it's a lot of good stuff. Don't make a rash decision. Do your homework and hire us if you get stuck.
Exactly. What do you think we're doing this podcast for? Right, Amari?
Right.
Exactly. No, give us the money instead of wasting the money. Be the best money you spent using us as consultants. All right. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Next week, we'll have another fun episode. Getting ready for, if you own rental property, what do you want to do? Getting it ready for, the spring repairs, coming out of your little hibernating hole, and we'll talk then. All right. Thanks, Brooke. Thanks, Amari.
All right.
Thank you for listening to the Cleveland Real Estate Investor Podcast with Mike Riley. Please add our show or follow us on Spotify, Overcast, Apple Podcast, or Spotify. Leave a like or comment on the video. All engagement is appreciated. Subscribe to us on YouTube as well for video content coming soon. For any Cleveland listeners or Cleveland Browns fans, you can check out our other podcast, Cleveland Browns Anonymous, for our weekly group therapy session. This is also on all the same platforms as the Cleveland Real Estate Investor.